Here's a story that if you have dined with me at my table in the portico or the chef's table, you'll have heard this because I love telling this story because it's the origin story of how this little restaurant began. To give you some context, 2019, my wife passed away after a 9.5 year bout with ovarian cancer. Mixed in there was having to file for bankruptcy, losing all my businesses, and not having a job. And so I was not in a good place. And so one of the ways I dealt with that grief was I started traveling, because the four walls here of the house, they tell me the same old stories, but the open road tells me new ones, and I wanted to go find some. So in December of 19, I started traveling, and I went to Pacific Northwest, I went to the Twin Cities, I went to DFW, I went to Nashville, and eventually ended up in Ireland, and was supposed to be in Dublin on March 17th. But a little international incident happened called COVID, and I was way on the northern edge of Ireland on the UK side. And I was in a town called Bushmills, and I was sitting in a pub called Finn McCool. Had just seen the Giant's Causeway, and I had my Guinness, and I was just happy as a clam. And I'm watching up there on the television, the BBC, they're broadcasting President Trump, and he is now announcing that Ireland, of the last countries to be added to the U.S. travel ban. So my Irish host saw that and said, looks like we better get you home. So my trip got cut short 4 days. We packed up everything, drove the 3.5 hours down to Dublin, got a few hours sleep, and showed up at the airport at 6 a.m. with all the other travelers. It was chaos. But it wasn't hard to change the ticket. It was very difficult to get on the plane because of all the layers of security and the concerns and where have you been and where have you traveled. And thankfully I had just been in Ireland, but folks who had been in Italy and other places, they had to go to another line. And so flight was late though, but got back to the United States, where the pilot said, hey, we got to get you home. I know some of you are going to miss flights, but it's easier to deal with them in the U.S. than on foreign soil. So I came back frustrated. Now, what am I doing? And I don't have a job. My whole world just turned upside down. What do I do? Well, I started improving my house. That's how I turned some of my angst into productivity. And thankfully, places like Home Depot and Lowe's were considered essential businesses because I was there 2 or 3 times a week. But I painted my house. I bought the best Sherwin-Williams house paint I could find. It looked like cake batter. It was that thick. And I painted my whole house by hand with a brush because I had the time and I wanted to do a really good job, and thought maybe this will be the last time I ever have to paint my house. And so just lots of uncertainty, but trying to work it out in productive means. So May of 20, some good friends from my restaurant days asked if I would cook for them for their 25th anniversary. They were supposed to be in London, and that trip got canceled, of course. And they loved the restaurant, and would I cook for them? And I said yes. So I made them a 5-course meal, paired it with a couple of bottles of wine, but I boxed it up and I sent it over to their house because of the concern of social distancing and such. And a little something in me died. Like I create experiences and memories, not food. But they paid me handsomely, and it was a good opportunity. But they took pictures and posted them of the experience, and the power of social media took over. The very next day, I started getting texts and direct messages. Hey, Kevin, I saw those pictures that you did for that dinner. Would you do that for us? It's our 35th anniversary next week. We'd love for you to do that for us if you would. And I thought, well, I've done all this work to my house and my yard and my garden. I asked the requestee, I said, would you feel safe in my backyard? And they agreed. And so I affectionately refer to them as customer zero. That's where it all started, in the backyard, in my garden, in my portico, which then led to 38 dinners, all word of mouth, all dominoed one into another. And my daughter was living here at the time, in between assignments for work and dealing with COVID. And so we had a great time cooking together and serving these 38 dinners. And they were all just completely spontaneous. I would get a text on my phone, and someone would ask, Kevin, I hear about this thing you're doing. That's what it was called, this thing. How do we get in on that? And I said, well, let me see. I have next Friday open. I said, good, we'll be there. And you remember that those days, everybody was cooped up. Everybody still, though, had special occasions, birthdays, celebrations, and no place to go. And I became that de facto opportunity to create a special place during a real difficult season. But never in my mind was I thinking, oh, this could be a business. And because everything was outdoors, October rolled around, the weather changed, and we called it quits. Thinking, well, that was kind of a fun way to pass the time and get through COVID, or get through the summer of COVID. And again, never thinking that this was going to be a business until November rolls around, and I start now getting email requests for the spring. Kevin, are you taking reservations yet? Because I want to bring my mom there, or I want to have my anniversary there. And I did not know what to say. I just said, contact me in March. And again, I was not thinking in terms of an opportunity, but it took a very good friend of mine who came 3 times that summer, very persistently said, Kevin, you've got a business opportunity here. I'd like to sit down with you and let's talk through what would it take to make this thing an upright business, because under the first iteration, we didn't really charge anything for it, but we just told people, just pay what you think it's worth. And people were extremely generous, but didn't really, again, think that this was going to be a business, so we didn't tackle all the infrastructure that was required. So my good friend and a couple of buddies, we sat down in January of 21, and we sat in a conference room and whiteboard and notes, and identified what would it take to turn this little backyard dinner party into a full-blown business. And we identified we called it our Holy Trinity, 3 deities that we had to appease and bow before. And on our whiteboard, we listed the Department of Revenue, the Liquor Commission, and the Health Department, because all 3 of those we knew would have very specific requirements for a business like this, non-traditional setting. And so I went to work on it, and the first one was the easiest. Well, it was straightforward. Let me say that. Was the Department of Revenue. I just hired a bookkeeper, and he began to set me up on QuickBooks. We started tracking expenses, figuring out who needs tax money, applied for a sales tax permit. So he goes through and hands all the tax hands that fills their hands with money of what they're demanding of occupation tax and sales tax and payroll tax. And so that was all straightforward. Money well spent right off the bat. The easiest of the three, the easiest was the Liquor Commission. And people all, no, really? Really? Yeah, really. It was a 10-minute phone call. I called the office and asked for an investigator. And I said, look, here's what I'm doing. It feels like I have friends over to my house, but I do it a whole lot, like multiple times a week. And I cook for them and serve them alcohol, and they pay me for that. Do you have a problem with that? And they said, well, one, we don't have jurisdiction over your home in private gatherings. And just so long as these are private, then, yeah, we have no say over it. Now, if you're trying to run a bar or trying to have all hours gatherings, then that's not private. But just as long as you maintain the privacy, and it's all listed in their code of regulations on what is considered a private in-home gathering, and we meet that. And so we do some other things to maintain that. We don't have a website. That's why you can't do a Google search. How do I find the portico.com? There is no portico.com, and there can't be, nor will there be, because once I put a specific website out into the public, that changes it from a private gathering. So we don't have a .com website. We do have a portal that you make a reservation, but you have to first make a request for invitation, and thus we have a code to access the calendar. So it begins this private dialogue between me and the guest, because these are private, and that is what the Liquor Commission requires. And it actually works to our advantage, because we cut out a whole lot of hubbub and riffraff that way. And so it's very focused, and the Liquor Commission helps us do that. The third of the Trinity was the Health Department. And I called an inspector and said, here's what I'm doing. He said, oh, you're running a food business. Oh, anytime you make money off of food, it's got to come out of a commercially inspected kitchen. Oh, I thought, there went my little dream of whatever this was going to be. And they said, well, hang on, what are you trying to accomplish? So I showed them a menu, and they said, well, really, you just need these 5 basic things. You need a hand sink and a mop sink and a 3-bowl sanitizing sink, and you need scrubbable walls and surfaces, and you need commercial grade appliances. Those 5 things. And it has to be different than your residential kitchen. So my house that I live in currently, when I moved in 30 plus years ago, it had a little kitchenette in the basement, completely plumbed and with power. And I just pulled all the cabinets out, all the residential grade surfaces, put in subway tile, put in scrubbable walls and surfaces, and FRP on the walls and ceiling, and I installed the hand sink and the mop sink and the 3-bowl sink, and a couple of commercial grade appliances, an oven and a refrigerator. And the health department signed off on it April 28th of 21 that year. First day of official business was May 1st, 2021. So now we're off and running. We did 38 dinners that first season. We did 72 dinners that second season as a full-blown business. Again, all word of mouth, not advertising, one, because we can't, but we like the idea of slow growth and steady growth. The next year in 22, we did over 95 dinners in the backyard. Again, all word of mouth. And that's when we thought, maybe we're going somewhere. Maybe this thing could actually be a viable thing. But along the way, people often ask, "Oh, are you going to expand? You should grow into Omaha. You should grow, you should franchise this." And that's a really noble idea, but what we have here is so distinct and almost like lightning in a bottle. Where my house is situated and the neighbors on either side, we don't have an HOA, so we don't have rules and regulations governing what we can and can't do in our backyard. And all my neighbors are great with it. But also because of the location, my house itself, that's just, it's going to be difficult to recreate a setting like what we have here that's ideal for outdoor dining. But also, it's not an easily scaled idea because it's not built upon a manual. It's not built upon a procedure or a set of systems. What we do in the portico is so incredibly personal and private and intimate. I get to serve you every night along with my sous chef Ike, and we get to know you. And often you ask us to sit with you at the end of the meal and finish off with a glass of wine or so. And the opportunity to do that with you is, how would I do that in the traditional restaurant setting? I'm doing things now I could have never done, like have one table a night and not need another table behind it, not care when you leave, because this is the table, this is the experience, this is the plan for the evening, and we don't have to hurry you along. And we've realized that where are you going to go? Where you can set longer than an hour and a half, and here you can set all evening if you like. So the portico experience is such an unusual and unique opportunity that we've may I say, it found us. But every night we get to create an original menu. We create a space and a moment for people to slow down and relax, and quite possibly have the type of meal they've never had before. Outdoors is the sweet spot for the year. We're glad we are able to do indoors. That changed this year. We used to not do indoor dining. Everything was either outside in the portico, or it was at your house and catering an event. But this summer, June 21st to be exact, a young man who has the account Cornbelt, Instagram account that highlights hidden Nebraska. He came for dinner kind of accidentally, or not accidentally. He wasn't planned to come. He was a fill-in. And he came and asked if he could take some video and photos, and we said sure. And he was very discreet about it, very low key, and got footage of the whole evening. Wouldn't even know it. People are taking pictures all the time. So great experience, great evening. Not again thinking anything of it. About 6 o'clock the next evening, June 22nd, Ike and I were getting ready for dinner, and my phone starts to buzz, and his phone starts to buzz. And we started looking, and went, oh, JT posted his reel. And our phone just would not stop buzzing all night, or next day, or the next day. and probably it slowed down after about 2 weeks, because he highlighted our little micro restaurant in our backyard to ultimately, at last count, 1.1 million viewers. And of that, we estimated somewhere around 3,000 inquiries off of that little 1-minute reel. So it filled up our calendar, but it also gave us a brand new opportunity to think, could we do this year round? What if we did this year round and moved the table inside? And so that summer, cleared out the upstairs, called in some painters, painted the kitchen, all the upstairs, brightened it up, made it look more like a restaurant than my house. And November 6th, we opened the doors for Portico Chef's Table, and we are booked through March 31st. Never thought that would happen either, but it's just a great experience to feel like I'm a chef again, to feel like I own a restaurant again after losing 3 businesses and having to close all 3. And now I'm back in the business in a micro setting that is not a dream come true, because I didn't dream this was possible. But that's the story of the Portico experience, of how it came about. Where is it going to go? Not sure, but I hope I can serve you in here someday. If you're interested in learning how to book the table, we'll put a link down below to our mailing list. You need to be a part of our mailing list to get all the pertinent information. And we book 3 months in advance, 4 times a year. So we don't book way ahead. We don't book the whole year. So if you're interested, you can click that and join our mailing list down below. Hope I can serve you soon.